Hello and welcome to the Daily Record Betting Show, where, as ever, we'll attempt to guide you in the direction of some weekend profits for the football action. It's the last 16 of the Premier Sports Cup in Scotland, and there's also league action, which catches the eye. South of the border, the old singing and dancing Premier League gets going on Friday night at Old Trafford. So we'll go into the Ante-post markets for that, and we'll also pick out a value price in the English Championship for a weekend bet. I'm delighted to say, as ever, by Fraser Mackie, or should I say, the informed Fraser Mackie after last week. Fraser, how are we?
Oh, we're good, thanks. Let's hope that continues, eh?
Yes. How's it been for you the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, really pleased with the way things have started. Managed to nail a couple of goal scorers, haven't we, so far for fun. So I've unearthed hopefully another couple of value ones there. And, I've been busy this week doing a lot of the English, just firming up some of my Ante-post markets, bets in the English Premier League, which obviously gets underway Friday night and through the weekend. So I've been fairly busy with that, and hopefully get some eye-catching selections there for everyone.
Brilliant, Fraser. And as they say, without further ado, we'll get straight into it. Scotland, 8 ties in the Premier Sports Cup spread over the weekend. There's some real fascinating ones in there. Hearts going to Falkirk looks a potential cracker, giving away Falkirk started the season. And obviously Hearts had a disappointing result in Dundee last week. Dundee themselves have been flying. They host Airdrie. Tony Docherty will be fancying his team for a place in the last 8. But Fraser, it's the games at Pittodrie and Hampden which interest you. And given the fact you've had such a good start with the goal scorers, it's probably good to know that you're sticking by that. Starting off with the Granite City, I think you've got a goal scorer bet in the Aberdeen Queen's Park tie.
Yeah, look, there's the scope clearly for maybe depending on how some of the clubs approach the Premier Sports Cup, such as Hearts and Ross County. There's some attractive looking prices, perhaps about a couple of outsiders, Spartans and Falkirk that punters may be drawn to have a bit of a nibble there, but. I think shocks are fairly few and far between at this stage historically, in the way the tournament's gone in the last few years. So, I've had a look at a couple of games. One of the live ones for Rangers and Johnson for some goal scorer action. But first, as you say, to Pittodrie, where I guess one of the big developments of the week has been the departure of Bojan Miovski. What a great deal, I think, for all parties concerned there. Aberdeen, terrific bit of business. What a cracking player he's been. An absolute joy to watch at times, and just a guy that's clearly only going to get better. But if I was an Aberdeen striker, I'd be looking at the very first opportunity to make my mark. Now that he's gone, and they've got Championship opposition in the shape of Queen's Park. Look, I can only imagine Jimmy Fallon is going to go with and give Esther Sokler his chance. He probably had a settling in season last year, which most players don't get the opportunity to do that. But the fact Miovski was so good, it's almost as if Sokler was purchased as the heir apparent to him, and clearly couldn't get a look in to a great extent because Miovski was so good. So the Slovenian has had a side to the Scottish football. He's had a look at that. One thing that's interesting is that his 4 goals, 3 were in cup competitions last year. Now, that was Ross County in the League Cup, Eintracht Frankfurt in Europe, and Celtic in the Scottish Cup, that semi-final goal. This season already in the League Cup group stage, he's scored 2 against Dumbarton, 2 against Queen of the South. Now, Queen's Park, admittedly, as a championship team, potentially mid-table championship team, are a step up on that. But if Sokler wants to make a statement or get first claim to Miovski's job, then this is the kind of game where he really wants to make his mark in the first game since Miovski's departure. And with that in mind, I think 7-2 for him to be first goal scorer in this game would have to be someone we'd look at. You would have to fancy Aberdeen strongly to win the game, given what we've seen of them so far. They've managed to see off St Johnstone away and St Mirren last weekend, showing a bit of grit on both occasions to get the victory. And with any luck, Sokler should see 70 minutes of action at least and give us a big run for our money there. And Bet365, you can go each way with them. I think a third of the odds as well for the places. So your bet can still run even if we don't get the first. You can get your money back and a little bit more by backing him. Esther Sockler each way for first goal at Aberdeen Queen's Park.
And so, once we have collected from that, it gives us some shekels to take into the later game. And you told us in the Ante-post programme that we did, Fraser, for the season, that you saw St Johnstone had goals in them, or the potential to have goals. 3, admittedly, against 10 men Kilmarnock for a long spell last week, but 3 at Rugby Park last week was an excellent sign. And they go to face Rangers in their last 16 tie. And I think you've keen maybe on a couple of decent prices for that.
Yeah, St Johnstone are a different deal this season. Anyone who saw them last year and thinks, well, they're going to Rangers. They didn't land a glove on Rangers last season, whether it was Michael Beale or Clement in charge. They played 3 times, failed to score a goal. I think they lost 3-0, 2-0 and 2-0. And in fact, their last goal against Rangers was, if memory serves, a Nicky Clark winner back in November 2022, just before the World Cup. Callum Davison was in charge. So, but listen, please ignore all that. This is a very much.
I think we're going to have to, Fraser.
a very different unit altogether. I've been watching these guys up front, Adama Sidibe and Benji Kimpioka for most of the summer now, and I think they can take one of the guys certainly can take the step up to playing Rangers in their stride, because it's fair to say Rangers are a bit vulnerable at the moment at this stage of the season, coming off a defeat in Europe in midweek. Clearly a few issues there. But so I want to shout up Kimpioka at 11-2 with Bet365 as an anytime scorer. The reason why I think they can cause a bit of damage is Kimpioka and Sidibe both have great speed about them. They can run in behind. St Johnstone will be trying to get that Rangers defence turning as much as possible. I think he'll enjoy himself out at Hampden. And he's just a guy playing just at the top of his confidence. He's trying little things that he didn't in the first 6 months of his stay when he joined from in January. And I think he could have a bit of fun against a defence that's clearly got a couple of holes in it at the moment.
Even the movement, sorry to break in, Fraser, but even the movement to win the penalty kick at Kilmarnock last week, there was a confidence there, wasn't there, to go and shimmy a couple of ways before he got brought down. It was a sign of someone who is high in morale.
Yeah, look, he wasn't doing that at the back end of last season. He put himself through a kind of fitness boot camp during the summer with his brothers back in Stockholm.
Like ourselves.
It certainly showed. So fair play to him for that. He's come back in great shape, as you say, unlike ourselves. And I do have to mention another potential route to go for St Johnstone. I'm not saying St Johnstone are, the game itself is ripe for a shock, but I think there's a bit of value in these two plays, because it wouldn't surprise me if St Johnstone scored, but perhaps lost the game 2-1, 3-1, that type of thing. I've been watching Jack Sanders, formerly of Kilmarnock, in the last few weeks. He's got his chance because Sam McClelland is sadly out for the season, and Jack goes up for every set piece, for every corner as well. Another thing about Kimpioka and Sidibe, they've been winning fouls, free kicks high up the pitch on account of their speed, their trickiness, putting defences under pressure. So this is what St Johnstone will also be trying to prey on, using that to win free kicks, set pieces. Also noted they've clearly done a bit of work. There's a couple of kind of trick plays as well that almost came off a corner straight to Dre Wright for a volley, which came close at Rugby Park.
Brilliant effort, that. I think it was either side of Robbie McCrory. That's a goal. It's a beautiful hit.
They're trying a few things. And certainly Sanders will be up there. He's a massive 25-1 to be any time goal scorer with Sky Bet. So I mean, he'll start the game. He'll be going up for corners and free kicks. And if there's any vulnerability about Rangers at the back, it wouldn't surprise me if St Johnstone got a goal Saturday evening. And these are two very sporting bets for them to get one. I would split stakes the two. I think there's a couple of routes to go there against a vulnerable Rangers backline.
Well, after the first 2 weeks of this season, Fraser, you're a man on a hat-trick with the goal scorer bets. So good luck with those, and good luck to everybody who plays. Curtailed card due to the Premier Sports Cup and the Scottish Championship, obviously. But the game that's on, Fraser, I think has attracted your attention.
Yeah, it's Ayr United against Hamilton Accies. If that sounds familiar, they actually played each other 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
at first glance, this is a bit of an oddity, but I think whether this was Ayers doing, I don't know for certain, but I suspect it would have been. It seems a pretty bright idea. What they've done is shifted a fixture from, I think, late autumn, maybe October, November, which is a midweek one, which admittedly might not have attracted as many fans. The weather might not have been as great, but why not take advantage of a feel-good factor at the moment?
I was going to say, you might not also be coming off the back of a 5-0 sensational performance.
Totally. I was at Somerset last Friday night, and this means I can't possibly ignore the fact here where I put up at 3-4 with William Hill to win this game. They obviously went to Hamilton on the first day of the season in the league, won tidily enough, 2-0. But listen, they really stepped up on that performance on Friday night against Airdrie, who I'd fancied for the Championship, and I think still will be competitors in the Championship this season towards the promotion places. That the manner in which they dismantled Rhys McCabe's side was very impressive. There was a great intensity about the team. Up the top end of the pitch, Scott Brown's got guys who just know the division. They've got that George Oakley as a battering ram. Anton Dowds is a guy that you can hang your hat on to score goals in the division. There's also a little touch of class in behind, working in behind these guys, or maybe out wide if he switches them, is Jay Henderson, who has come on loan from Ross County for the season after a surprisingly below par year there. Just didn't get his chance at all in Dingwall when they might have been looking for a bit of inspiration up there. I think there's a guy who's playing with a chip in his shoulder after that and certainly performing. That's doing him some good.
His finishing was classy last week.
Great, and he's a third generation, very shrewd one by Scott Brown. He's a third generation Ayr United player. His dad and his papa both played for the club, so there's that little emotional pull as well, helping things along. Just feel that Ayr have got things are going well off the park at the moment. Got good structure in place, new stand opened, and I just think there's upgrades on the pitch as well. And do you know what? If this game was played in October, November when it should have been played, you'd be looking at Ayr United being a title contender, and Accies, I think, probably round about the bottom two.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be 3-4 in those circumstances. Just feel, the wind is at their back at the moment. Ayr, great momentum after that 5-0. Listen, you don't want to go too heavily into Ayr and say, well, they're champions elect now or anything like that, because they dismantled Airdrie 5-0. Airdrie did play into their hands, but I'd be surprised if Scott Brown's men didn't have more than enough to repeat their success of 2 weeks ago over the visitors to Somerset on Saturday.
It does feel at times that the Championship can be quite a streaky division as well, Fraser, that teams can get on runs for, short spells, little bursts of good results, not so good results. So trying to catch teams in form at the time, the way you're catching Ayr just now might be exactly the way to go. And as you say, the price is very attractive, given the way they have started. South of the border, the Premier League is back. We hear about it, we see it all over the place, and it is now here in all its glory for the weekend. We're going to go through the Ante-post markets for that. Fraser, I know you've got some really intriguing looking bets in there for the season. But before we get to that, just going through the EPL markets for the weekend. You spoke quite openly on the show last week when you were doing your Ante-post stuff regarding Leeds United and your feelings on them, possibly being against them, given how the position at the top of the market and how they were vulnerable. It's not been a great start for them, and you think they might have it tough this weekend as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they do. They actually play a West Brom side. They got off to a flyer away at Queen's Park Rangers last Saturday. As you say, I made no secret last week that Leeds are a team I want to be against this season. They're 3-1 favourites to start for the Championship. took the lead, came from behind again in a kind of topsy-turvy game against Portsmouth in the first weekend of the season. Lost to Borough, Middlesbrough in the Cup. Listen, albeit there'll be significant changes to the team from then, but there's just a vibe about Leeds at the moment that I wouldn't like if I was with them. And they're also set for another bit of a negative just before their game at the Hawthorns, and that's the loss to Brighton. It looks like of their £40 million player, Jorginho Rutter. It looks like the French striker is going to leave. And it's just another kind of high-profile departure. Another guy who was big last season for them in their championship promotion campaign, which got them as far as the playoff final and defeat to Southampton. There's a guy that provided, I think it was about 15 assists in addition to 7 goals. So there's just an air of uncertainty at the moment about what direction Leeds are going in. And it's definitely time to take advantage at the moment when you've got a West Brom side that got off to a tidy start. They're a massive price, I think, at 13-5 to do
That's
this.
a massive price, Fraser, isn't it? Really, at the start of the week, I was looking at that game and thought maybe 7-4 West Brom would be. I would have been happy with that.
Yeah,
barely believe that price.
It seems big for a team that you would probably pitch at being a playoff contender. And if there's any regression in Leeds this season from where they finished, which was third, then really shouldn't be much between them. And in fact, West Brom could have improved past them. Listen, West Brom have had their problems as well because they've had a sort of transfer embargo as such. The EFL have to monitor their business, their transfers. So, but they've just benefited from having an exceptional head coach in Carlos Corberán. And listen, my admission, I was against West Brom last season because of their financial issues. I thought, I wonder if this might be the season they would dip into the bottom half of the Championship, potentially be a long shot for relegation. So, listen, I got that wrong because this guy's mustard as a manager, and he's gradually improved them from saving them in 22-23 to take them all the way to the playoffs that season, having flirted with relegation at the start. And then, of course, they got involved in the playoffs last year as well. So I can see them contending again. That makes this 13-5 an outstanding 90-minute match bet on Saturday afternoon.
Fraser, I hate to bring it up, but I can't let the English Championship pass without talking about last week's heartbreak. Seconds from the 9-4 landing. That was a painful moment at the start of the season.
Yeah, it was about Bristol City leading that hot.
That hurt.
There's much more of that to come, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure there is. Now the English Premier League there, you won't go short of getting a chance to get bets on for this and various markets and various things, and you're going to be watching it every week, and it's going to be all over your screens. And of course, on a week-to-week basis, we will have bets for matches. Fraser will give us goal scorers and match bets and things like that. But as we have done the previous 2 weeks when seasons have been kicking off, we're going to have an overall look at the Ante-post situation, which can give you, as we've discussed before, can give you an interest all through the season. Some great value can be found in there. And there's a variety, there is a host of markets that you can get stuck into. So Fraser has very kindly for us varied it up into all manner of different plays in different markets. We'll start off with one that's quite popular, the handicap betting in the league. There's a new era at West Ham, Fraser, and I think you believe that it could be quite a decent one.
Yeah, well, listen, now's the time to find out, isn't it? If all those moaning West Ham fans that we listen to on phone-ins and the like, carping about the man that brought them a European trophy.
You're not happy with that, are you? You really aren't happy with this?
David Moyes, and got them into the European football regularly and top half of the Premier League. If these guys actually had a point in that the talent available actually on a regular weekly basis should have been producing more. And we're about to find that out, whether they were correct and whether they are satisfied finally with Julian Lopetegui, who had one season at Wolves, finished 13th. So, is this the dawn of a great new era of football as compared to Davy Moyes, who was accused of having the handbrake on quite a lot? I think it's going to be more evolution than revolution, but and it's not going to be like Ange Ball or anything like that. The guy's a
No.
pragmatist as well. But they're definitely going to change. They're definitely going to improve, I think. And I've got with West Ham in a couple of different ways this season. I have backed them to have a top half finish, but I liked their handicap mark, which was, if you shop around, I'm sure you can get 34, 35 in places. I could just see some obvious improvements. He's come back to Wolves for Max Kilman. Certainly the defence needed to improve, because strangely for a Moyes team, I think only the bottom three conceded more than them last season. They got a couple of real beatings.
And had some bad days when they had a couple of real hammerings as well, didn't they? Which was most
Arsenal put 6 past them and the like. So
yeah,
that shouldn't be happening, strictly speaking, that often to a team that you would want to be competing maybe around about 8th, 7th, possibly gate crashing at the top 6. So I think that will help. He'll tighten up things at the back. They brought in Nicholas Füllkrug, the late bloomer German striker, who looks to be having in the form of his career at the moment, obviously after scoring at the Euros a couple of times as well. I think he'll be an unpleasant opponent for a lot of defences.
He might be well suited to the British game, Fraser, the kind of style he's got.
I think he'll love it. Yeah, listen, he might not be prolific. I don't have him on my list for top scorer or anything like that, but he can certainly knows how to soften up a defence. And there's just a lot of hugely exciting new elements to West Ham this season, and I've got with them on the handicap.
It has been something of a fairy story at Portman Road over the course of the last couple of seasons. It's been a remarkable ascent, and they return to the top flight. And Fraser, I think you believe they're going to stay there.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. They've been a great story, haven't they? Just before I touch on maybe the best of Ipswich, and there's Kieran McKenna, the other miracle working head coach. The relegation market's a bit of a. It's not somewhere I wanted to go as such this season, and that's primarily because it appears to be mired in issues over the last few years of points deductions. And to amplify that point, Manchester City are quoted, let me check, I think between as short as 6-1 with Boyle Sports and 11-1 general to be relegated from the Premier League. So that's all stuff that can happen off the pitch. So much as I used to, over the years, I've got involved in the relegation market, I've kind of gone cold on it in the last couple of years with these point deductions and all the financial stuff. But one thing I do want to concentrate on is Ipswich, as you say. Great story, back-to-back promotions. I wanted to get with them this season because I just think there's a feel-good factor about the club. I don't think teams will enjoy going to a bouncing Portman Road. I love the manager. And I just wanted to check on something, that what happened to clubs who do back-to-back promotions and arrive in the Premier League. So there's been 3 in the Premier League era. They are Southampton under Nigel Adkins, finished 14th. But they sacked him, obviously, because he wasn't doing a good enough job after back-to-back promotion.
Yeah, that's football.
Getting them mid-table. So that's when Pochettino came in and took them on. Norwich under Paul Lambert was, I think, just before that, maybe 2011. Back-to-back promotions, finished 12th. So what you find is that maybe the players who have excelled in League One and the Championship are not great League One players and Championship players. They're actually Premier League players in waiting and should be regarded as such, and they fully deserve to be there. Incidentally, Watford in 99 and 2000 was the one that didn't do so well under Graham Taylor second time round. They got back-to-back promotions and were relegated. But I think the profile of Ipswich is more similar to that of Southampton and Norwich from those times, and there's so much to like about the way the club's run now, the way McKenna thinks. He seems to have a great touch. And I'm not a fan of the way the Leicester at the moment and the other team that came up is Southampton, who I think, much as there's a lot to admire about the way Russell Martin got Southampton up via the playoffs, I can see them being caught out perhaps in the way Burnley were, the way they played and their commitment to the plan A. And if plan A doesn't work, then continue doing plan A. So I'm against both of those, very much with Ipswich. A bit of news this morning that Calvin Phillips has joined on a season-long loan from Manchester City. So if they get the good version of him and get him back to his best,
Nice to see him playing well, wouldn't it? Because he comes across pretty well, Calvin Phillips, and it just hasn't happened. It was always going to be tough for him going there to try and break into that team, and it's just not happened. But the Calvin Phillips of Leeds United was an outstanding player.
I think we go back to the pull of the manager here as well. I mean, the guy, if he's managed to get Calvin Phillips to Ipswich, he's sold his vision to him, because I think Everton, maybe a couple of other clubs who you think might be higher up the league, were in for him. You know, he's also not, McKenna's also not gone, he's spent a bit of money, but he's not gone far and wide for it. He's gone for he's gone for British signings, albeit not entirely full of Premier League experience. They've got Amari Hutchison signed permanently now from Chelsea, who was an excellent loan player for them last year. Liam Delap joins from Manchester City. He'll play up front. So there's so much to like about them, and I'm just going to continue riding the feel-good factor of Ipswich, and I've backed them at even money to stay up. So it gives you plenty of teams to cheer to go down as well. So I like these bets.
Probably at the end of last season, Fraser, that people would have not expected, but it wouldn't have shocked anyone if there was a change of management there, given Kieran McKenna was being so highly regarded elsewhere and had been looked at by other clubs. There was a change of management, however, as we all knew in advance, at Anfield, where Jurgen Klopp made his way emotionally out of the door. He's been replaced, and you're not sure it's going to be just as successful as they would hope.
Yeah, so I've had to look at Liverpool and the not to finish in the top four market, or to finish outside the top four, which they are 6-4 with a couple of firms, Betfred, I think, and Bet365. I've just got a feeling we're about to discover exactly how brilliant Jurgen Klopp was for Liverpool. Now, that may seem a slightly silly thing to say, but intermittently during his spell in charge, there were a couple of dips, a couple of times where his reign was questioned, or his record was questioned, but I just don't think you can do that at all. You look at football being littered with examples of clubs who lose a long-term or long-serving manager, and the record normally isn't great for the immediate replacement. Now, Alex Ferguson at Man United is obviously the extreme example. We no need to go there again. But you look at clubs who further down the Premier League, such as who were just steady achievers at their own level, such as Tony Pulis at Stoke, Alan Curbishley at Charlton, and even up here in the Premiership with Derek McInnes consistently getting Aberdeen finishing third and fourth, and look what's happened with them since they've been up and down so much. So I think we're right to have a look at Arne Slot and see and question whether he can keep Jurgen Klopp's great work going at Liverpool. I think he's the 10th Dutchman to take charge of a Premier League club. The record's pretty mixed. You've got Van Gaal and Erik ten Hag at Man United, who one was sacked after winning a FA Cup, one survived the sack after winning an FA Cup. You could
Frank de Boer got about 12 minutes, didn't he?
Yeah, something like 7 days. Yeah, it felt like. Yeah, and in between you've got Gus Hiddink having a couple of good spells at Chelsea, but I think there's a question mark over this. The perception is, I have a perception that Klopp also battled pretty well with the owners there at Liverpool to get the funding, to get the players he needed, and I've got a couple of ticks next to the names of Spurs and Newcastle this season in my list, and those are two sides not involved in any European football this year. I can see Ange Postecoglou improving Spurs again this season, and I can also see Newcastle recovering from their injury-ravaged season last year, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're competing for the top four. As well, I think Man United will come back. I think they've perhaps done the right things over the summer.
And you're surely playing for two places, aren't you, Fraser? Because Manchester City and Arsenal look as though they're booked for it. So
yeah, well, look, yeah. When I run my bet past someone whose opinion I respect greatly, he questioned it with me earlier in the week and suggested, well, there's your two. You've got your two places, Arsenal, Man City, who who else is going to fill those spots? Who's going to kick Liverpool out? So I named those three as possibles. Spurs, Man United, Newcastle could compete for that. I can't have Chelsea. It's just Mo Salah's in a contract year at 32.
Yep.
Virgil van Dijk, I think the same at 33. Just with those little issues hanging over them, I think there's enough nagging feelings around that Liverpool, who have not been terribly proactive yet in the transfer market, I'm sure they will get 3 or 4 signings in, but there's not a freshness about them at the moment. So I'm content to go with Liverpool to be the team dropping a little bit this season and falling out the top 4 at 6-4.
The first goal scorer market, my apologies. The goal scorer markets in the English Premier League for the season for the Golden Boot. There's some really juicy prices in there. Fraser, I know it's a market that you like to play for a bit of fun and a bit of profit every season. Briefly spin us through who are the guys to have a look at for this season. If you've got maybe 2, 3, 4, or whatever prices or more fancied ones, give us an idea of where you're going for this.
Okay, well, listen, first of all, the obvious thing to say is that Erling Haaland is the rightful 8-11 favourite to go and smash this out the park again.
8-11, just says it all.
For obvious reasons. Do you know the guy was 3-1 when he first signed from Borussia Dortmund to win this market first time round? So how big a price
Never
was that?
Get that price ever again.
How big a price was that? Yeah, so he's rightly odds on. Unfortunately, there's only 2 firms have priced up a market without Haaland. So I don't want to go there. I can't possibly go there for punters. You might not have accounts with these firms. I think one is Star Sports, although I believe they use the same platform as McBookie. So if anyone's got a McBookie account, you have a look at the without Haaland market. You obviously get shorter prices about your selection, but you also might get a winner rather than a juicy each way. So for Betfred are also the other firm that are doing that market without Haaland. But for fairness, I can only look at the big prices in the market which involve the Manchester City hotshot. And I'm just going to throw 4 big prices at you. I'll start with the shortest price, and it shouldn't be a surprise, but I still think there's value in it because the guy finished third last year is Alexander Isak at Newcastle, who's 16-1. Scored 21 goals last season, 5 of them from the penalty spot. So that's a good sign that he'll hopefully be on penalties again. The guy's only 24 years old. I can only see him improving from that. I think he's going to be a great danger again. A guy clearly playing at the top of his game. I'm expecting better from Newcastle, as I said earlier, and actually looked for ways to maybe try and get with Newcastle this season, but sort of struggled. They were 10-11 in the without the big 7 market. So this is a way perhaps to get interested in Newcastle and I hope they have a good season. And I've picked out Isak as my main one at 16-1 to challenge Haaland, or at least get close to him. I'm also going to mention Jean-Philippe Mateta at Crystal Palace, who had a preposterous end to the season in terms of goal scoring. It was 14 goals in his last 16 games for Palace last season from the 3rd of February onwards. And he went away and won a silver medal at the Olympics, scored again out there for France. So comes back in great form. And 6'4", clearly Oliver Glasner, their new coach, who came in mid-season.
Something just clicked, Fraser, didn't it? Because he used the word preposterous. His start to life at Crystal Palace was fairly preposterous for the wrong reasons, but he certainly clicked in a year.
Yeah, he's been so slow in getting going, but certainly Glasner found the key to him. They played quite direct at times, made him the absolute focal point of the team. Hopefully that'll be happening again. After I put my bet on maybe 10 days ago, I was slightly worried. I've seen some links with Aston Villa, so I hope that's not that doesn't come to fruition, because hopefully Palace will be the right place for him to stay and to hit those heights and hopefully repeat that kind of scoring ratio over the course of the season. So he was 50-1, quite generally available. A couple others to mention: Kai Havertz is 33-1. Again, maybe just a guy for whom the penny dropped in the second half of last season. Sorry, I should mention Mateta, should be on penalties as well. This is a slight negative about Havertz, obviously, because Saka will take them for Arsenal. But there's so many goals in this Mikel Arteta team, isn't there? I think Havertz got 9 from February 17 onwards last season.
Killed me at the Euros, Fraser. He killed me. He was my top scorer at the Euros, and he really should have been.
Well, he can still be frustrating, but hopefully they've got to the bottom of him now, and as I say, he can be another sporting selection at a huge price.
Yeah.
No tittering at the back with this one, please, but I'm going to come up with another one who's a huge price. He's the most injury-prone player in English football, so really shouldn't make an Ante-post bet, but at the price I think we can afford to find out and throw another dart. It's Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Everton. Look, guy's 27 years old now. It's now or never, I think, for him to prove that the England recognition he got a few years ago was correct, and he can be a fit and firing English top flight striker.
Fraser, you say it's now or never for him, and really and truly, when you look at Harry Kane and the way his career's going, that England shirt is going to be up for grabs soon. You've got Ivan Toney in there fighting. You've got other ones, Watkins of Aston Villa in there fighting. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin was seen as the backup to Harry Kane at one stage. He really needs to get back to that.
Yeah, look, he's at a torrid time with injuries, and it may be being a little bit unfair, but he's 100 to 1 with a couple of small firms and 80 to 1 with Paddy Power. He's in a
200
contract.
to 1 to play 10 games.
He's in a contract. I know we'll see him limping off at the weekend and just absolutely despair at my stupidity. But listen, he's a massive price. He's another dart to throw at this. And do you know what? If he gets going, if he stays fit, he takes penalties.
Yeah.
He's an absolute class act. As you said, he was Harry Kane's backup just a couple of years ago, and he could, if he gets back to that type of form, he could well be the man replacing Harry Kane throughout the course of the season for England. So I'm wishing Dominic Calvert-Lewin a healthy and happy 2024-25.
And I'm wishing you a healthy and happy and profitable weekend. Fraser, thank you very much for joining us again. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for watching the show, and join us again next week.